here to tell you that that salt that I'm pouring in there will have absolutely no effect on plant growth. This Professor of Agriculture says that salt has no effect at all on plant growth. None whatsoever. How is that possible? Perhaps I didn't add enough.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, thank you. There's no water in it. That is exactly right. It has no effect on plant growth until we add the water to it. It is the water, it is the salt dissolved in the water which is having the adverse effect on plant growth.
And Ed said the water level's going, well, about a month ago you were still sitting at 1.3 metres, even after all this dry. So I'm thinking the theory's been there is so much water under here, let's keep putting saltbush in. So we just kind of, we're infilling a lot more. I just want it to be just chock-a-block. Started to get this paddock going, we then caught the saltbush bug. And I mean that as we're becoming fanatics about it. And since then we've been putting in about 10 to 12,000 plants a year straight after seeding. It's just part of what we want to do. Your wife's going to be on the planter. Never tell her how many saltbush you're going to have till at least 2 days before you start. Because they've got a bit cold on it.
So as you can see, this was a saline valley floor. The floor was put down, it was already salt affected, and Russell noticed that, you know, winter it had wet up and summer it had rain to go down a little bit. So it fluctuated between right at the surface to about 1.5 metres below, all through that 9-month period. Then, a little bit like the last one you've seen, since 2000, and these drier years, we've seen the impact again on the water table there, such that it's now down to around about 2.5 metres in the bottom.
By the storing of fresh water in the mound. It's mounded wet when the night after winter rains. Then the winter rainfall, fresh winter rainfall stored in the mound to allow the plants to access the fresh rainfall. Then it continues to leach as the incoming rain, which gives a freshening up of the soil surface, then allowing the saltbush to go down and access the saline groundwater underneath after it's an established plant.
Might end up on YouTube. You might end up on YouTube.
saltland work through the group, which Rachel's been very good at getting funding for us over there. She's the girl behind it all. A few of us are involved in it. This scientist here is Richard Humphries, and I'll hand it over to him just to explain what he did here. Okay, well this actually isn't saline land, but it's obviously adjacent to, runs into saline land. We didn't have quite enough saltbush to finish it off. There's 3 or 4 hectares here, but saltbush has just been a complete revelation to me, and this area. And so with a tiny bit of land like this, that it's, you know, cut off and blah blah blah, it's just as easy to put saltbush in it because you get so much value out of it. It's been mounded and then planted by hand, and there's a little saltbush every so far. It was actually sprayed with about 3 or 4 litres of Roundup about 10 days before it was mounded, because you know, there's plenty of ryegrass here, but as you can see, it's a bit hard to keep it down. A completely different farm to 10 years ago when I didn't have any saltbush, the way I can run my stock through the summer. I think it's a pretty powerful project itself. We've been on for a few years ourselves. These little plants here look very small, but I tell you what, they seem to hang in there and get through and do a really good job. This lot here in most of our project was planted by Ian Pulbrook and his team. Ian's got a tree nursery, saltbush nursery at Mingenew, and he comes down here with his team of backpackers. It's ripped by the 4-drive tractor, and there's a big ripper underneath, mounted. The backpackers walk along and plant these with their two plants, don't they? That's what happens. So each plant's taken care of individually.
That's because you're always getting your sheep eating saltbush in terms of, do they go for the grasses and that first?
Yeah, it was interesting. Going back 10 years, yeah, I'd put the sheep in the saltbush and sort of watch them quite closely. They didn't have a bloody clue. It was quite remarkable. But now they walk in and they just go straight for the saltbush. So they learn. Yeah.
That's for an autumn grazing?
Yeah, autumn grazing. That's where I use the saltbush pretty well. Straight after shearing March.
I was thinking some of this ryegrass may be able to be used out in the spring. If it's not grazed too hard, they won't touch the saltbush. You can come back in the autumn for saltbush, potentially.
They'll only ever take 30% off the saltbush, and the other 70% will come out of the interrow. Yeah? So you can manage it like that. And in the autumn.
No, very good. It's established very well. No, quite happy with how it looks. Mind you, it's the first time I've seen it to sort of know, so I'm only going off what I've seen once, but it looks good.
Yeah, we're pretty impressed with it. We haven't on this property, we haven't grown it before, but we've got various locations on other farm where we've put it in, and that's sort of where the whole idea come from, because it's probably 7 years ago we started growing it at a farm at home, and especially the way this year's turned out, it's been extremely valuable for our sheep. We still run a large number of sheep, and this land where we've got it here was pretty much good for nothing at all really, and the whole idea I wanted to do was get the saltbush in to start sucking up water, because it's just obviously been spreading over the years, and yeah, try and stop the spreading of the waterlog. And the land that was virtually, or had very little pasture on it, it'll be good for running sheep, with lambing sheep in the time to come.
As far as the river saltbush, they were pretty high quality and seem to have taken quite well.
I think this new saltbush area is really, really good. It's we've had a great establishment, and the plant's looking very vigorous for only being a few months old.
Well, I think it's quite a good result, considering the area which we've attempted to grow salt pasture, the saltbush pasture. Yeah. And I think it'll look a lot better in the autumn.
Very impressed with the way it's established.
I'm actually very happy where it has grown, but where it hasn't taken, it's not that flash. But I think if we had at least had a shower of rain after I planted it, it'd be a lot better.
Oh, I think it's doing very well. I think it's going to be a fantastic addition to my wasteland, so we can actually make some money out of it and get some grazing and bring it back into production.
I think we've had pretty good establishment this year, considering that the season was a bit up and down.
looks like we might have had somewhere in the vicinity of a 90% strike rate here, so can't ask for much more than that. Yeah, in general we're pretty happy with our establishment here.
This is a fantastic result.
Well, it's really done so well. It's been quite an eye-opener to us both, and it's so rewarding planting it, seeing our saline country growing something productive instead of being just wasteland.
It's a very good establishment, reinforcing what Ian Pulbrook's told us about his mounding, and I think probably we've got a 80–90% establishment.
I'm really impressed. It's grown dramatically the last 3–4 weeks. Really good. Yeah.
I'm really happy with the saltbush pasture at the moment. We've got it growing on some very marginal country that in the past has grown nothing but spiny rush. At the moment we haven't quite finished off and manipulated the pasture as much as we would like. We're going to come through in the inter-row and spray out a lot of the spiny rush just using diuron and glyphosate, and then we're also going to have to spray out in the mound itself while shielding the saltbush. And once we finish that, we should end up with quite a nice saltbush stand that's hopefully going to use some of this low-lying moisture, and basically it'll turn what was unproductive land into a useful sheep pasture.
Oh, I think it's excellent. I'm very pleased with it. Yeah.
Really good considering the season we've had. We haven't had much rainfall and it's established pretty well.
Be pleased this year because it's been the most difficult year we've ever had of planting saltbush. We did have to hand water these once. We had about 3 weeks of dry weather after we initially planted them, and we didn't want to lose any, so we took us 5 days to water them, which is quite an effort, but we're very pleased we did it.
It's looking very good on most of it. Some of the more salty areas aren't quite so good, but that's probably due to the very dry season we've had.
Yeah, it's great, Rachel. It's certainly given this area a hell of a lot more feed production, so yeah, no, love it to try and get more production out of these areas. It's what it's all about.
Look, on limited rainfall, the saltbush is growing quite well, and if we get some more summer rain, it should grow even quicker than it's already growing, and yeah, it's looking quite promising.
I think the mounding is the only way to go. I think we get this huge big water storage area, and it makes it easy access for the plant roots to get a good start.
Yeah, in the past we've only scalped and certainly haven't had the results, especially through low-lying waterlogged areas. This year it's really showing up to be the way to go, particularly through those areas to help invigorate it. And as you can see, we've got barley growing through here that isn't growing in the interrow because of the mounding, basically.
Very impressed with the way it's established. No, look, it's good vigour on the plants, and especially closer to the salt, it's got plants going where perhaps should be a bit questionable otherwise.
Yeah, it's been a big help in establishing it.
Yeah, I think it's got a good place actually. I think it just gives us that kick start and gets them away by the looks of it. Yeah.
The mounding certainly appears to be beneficial compared to where we didn't mound last year.
The mounding's excellent. It keeps the saltbush out of the wet zones, and by having 2 mounds together and a gap of 40 feet, hopefully we'll be able to grow some interrows to supplement grazing for the sheep and eventually reduce the water table.
Yeah, the stuff at home we haven't mounded before. We've just scraped, ripped and planted without the actual mounding, and like I wasn't sure how to go if it's dry with it being mounded, but Ian assured me that it'd be spot on, and yeah, even we've had, well, it hasn't been a disaster here, but we've had a lot of rain and it's established really well, and it's obviously holds the moisture better than, plus it gets it out of the salty stuff, but yeah, it's had plenty of moisture to keep it going.
The mounding has been very successful. Where they've done the mounding against non-mounding, it's the uptake is 100% against a lower percentage without the mounding.
If it's what it takes to establish a good saltbush pasture, then that's what we need to do. You definitely want some design with it so you can get your stock out of it, but if it's going to enhance the saltbush, then I'm all for it.
The mounding is a prerequisite.
The mounding's really good because it sets the plant up at the beginning, keeping it lots of fresh rainwater, help it get established better.
Yeah, the mounding's been fantastic. Probably the biggest thing about it was just turning over the actual spiny rush. So we've probably got a 50% kill on the mounds just from being able to turn over the spiny rush and cover what else was there. It's also lifted the saltbush out of a lot of waterlogging and out of a lot of salinity. A lot of the salt's washed out of the mounds, so we've got a much better establishment than in other areas where we've scalped and then gone and planted. So we're much happy with the establishment, and I think we'll have a much more productive saltbush stand in the future.
I think the mounding's the key to the whole issue, really. If you didn't get it mounded up and get it into some fresh soil so they can get a good start at the beginning of its life, I think you'd probably be wasting your time. So I think the mounding's a good thing.
Well, the mounding's very good. It's terrible to run over on a motorbike. But no, the mounding, I think, increases the viability of the plant, actually.
Increases the biodiversity on our property. It also increases the fodder availability, and we make use of all this saline water we have. I think as a farmer, I think it's a great project. It's enabled us to get on and help revegetate and re-establish some new, better plants on some of this tougher parts of our farm, and also increase the fodder availability.
Well, it increases grazing capacity and turns unproductive land hopefully into more productive land. May not get back to cropping, but hopefully it'll be a grazing system which will be able to run more sheep for longer. Project was very well run, and yeah, we'd love to see this type of project continuing. And many of us have got hundreds of hectares of this type of land, and for it to all be mounded with saltbush and inter-row species growing, it would improve the productivity of the land, in places 5-fold or even 10-fold.
It's all about just trying to get more production off less area, basically. So the more that we can intensify things on a smaller area, it opens up other areas for cropping or more stock or whatever. So yeah, it's vital. Yeah, loved it. To have incentive projects like that come out from the government helps us on the land no end, and to have that money actually hit the ground and have those results growing is brilliant, basically. So yeah, loved being part of it.
Yeah, like I said, we're pretty wrapped because it's something that we sort of would have liked to have done anyway, but the way things are nowadays, just the price that it was able to get supplied and done for really suited us, and just made life a lot easier. And as it is, it's all been done with GPS, so it's a lot tidier than it is at home, and yeah, it's all worked out good.
Saltbush increases the productivity in these unarable areas. It means we can get sheep stock in here when otherwise we wouldn't. The project's been really good at sharing information and funding for helping us establish all these plots.
For us here, it's a good project.
How has it helped you?
Well, it just means you can recover some of your unproductive dirt and get a bit of beneficial use out of it.
And once upon a time here 10 years ago, the salt land on this farm I considered waste. But now I look at little pockets of salt of 2 or 3 hectares and think I've got to fill that up with saltbush.
How many years have you started saltbush?
10 or 11. A good project. It was very well organised and executed by yourself and the contractor, and it was a pleasure to be involved with it.
Oh, the plan is to get this compound around the lake all full of saltbush eventually over the years. Oh, no, it was good. They were cheap enough. The plants were healthy enough. They just didn't sort of take too well once they got in the ground because of rain, I'd say.
We'll just keep planting until we run out of room, and every day we seem to find more areas. So even if we put them closer together, we'll continue to plant saltbush. Oh, the projects that come are very good, Rachel, and I'd really encourage other farmers to join and go in with it, and we just hope the project continues.
I've fenced it off and sort of used it as a grazing tool to rest some paddocks for a couple of weeks, things like that. A bit extra feed in poor periods. No, very good. I suppose I probably wouldn't have done it if the project wasn't there, but yes, it's I suppose a way of getting into it without sort of having to fork out too much money ourselves, which becomes a bit tight in years like this.
Well, hopefully once the site's completed and established, it'll provide us a bit of feed at critical times of the year when the paddocks would otherwise blow away. Oh, it's just good to see some dollars going into on-farm activities that are going to make a difference to what we can do with our enterprise, and also just make the site look a whole lot better.
Well, the saltbush that we've put on the farm in recent years has allowed us an extra grazing window, usually in the late summer, or late autumn if you like, and we're allowed to put sheep in there, commercial sheep in there, pre-lambing, and as long as we feed hay, have good water, then they go ahead, and they don't need much grain in that period. The project in general is an excellent project, and I think it's important that people take it seriously and try to make it go further.
Yes, we still have patches that where we lost some, and we will be going back and replanting some, but apart from that we've just about covered most of our bare country.
Well, without the incentive we probably wouldn't have been able to afford to fence the saltbush, and without the encouragement and the advice we possibly wouldn't have been able to put in the variety of saltbush, because you can read a certain amount in books, but it's nice to have people coming, visiting and just looking over it and telling us that we've been doing the correct thing or the right thing and suggesting alternatives.
Yes, so you've been a great help, Rachel, putting us on the right track, and we've enjoyed working with you.
Well, it adds another, I suppose, dimension to this part. I mean, there was no option to be able to use this before, so now it gives us an option. We put a bit of late summer grazing there, so it'd be good. Well, I suppose it's good to have this sort of thing. It encourages you to try these things out and give you alternatives to look at other parts of your farm then too. So yeah, it's very good.
Oh well, it's just giving us some grazing on non-productive country. Yeah, that's about all. I thought the project was excellent. Yeah, very, very good. It was all done without any input from myself, so it was very good.
Certainly at some stage in the future we'll probably plant a bit more. We've certainly planted a lot over the past probably decade or so, so we've got a lot of areas that are pretty well got a pretty good establishment already, but yeah, certainly some touch up, and we might bring some new projects online. I thought the project worked pretty well and was well managed. Yeah, and hopefully there's more of it in the future.
Well, it brings these poorer wastelands back into production and getting us a bit more productivity out of it. We can run a few more sheep, we can rest
parts of the farm which are under stress in those dry years and those low feed years, and we can utilise this bit of country that's sitting here wasted. I think the project's a wonderful idea. I think it's a good way to get people, get their awareness going on saltbush and get their minds around growing saltbush. Once you can get their mind around growing some saltbush and seeing the results, then they'll continue on, and it can only do it a fair bit of good.
It enables us to utilise the stubbles more efficiently, giving higher protein to help with the straw intake with our animals. The projects enable us to bring ahead by a number of years our aim to get more perennial pastures established around the property.
The saltbush makes use of what is otherwise desert country. It's win-win.
Basically, the biggest thing is just turning unproductive land into good grazing pasture, but I think in the future it's going to work in really well with trying to fill in the autumn feed gap. We struggle with, we've got a spring shearing now, so without the autumn shearing we really can end up with quite a lot of tender wool if we don't feed through autumn. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to turn sheep out onto this pasture in autumn, and it's high protein feed, and with hopefully we'll get some Puccinellia growing on the interrow. We should be able to get quite a good mixture of Puccinellia and saltbush, and that'll help us get through the autumn feed gap without a lot of supplementary feeding, and should increase the lambing rates as well, just from increased ovulation and better condition score. It was really well run. I was really happy with it. Well organised. I didn't have to put a lot of farm labour into it, which was probably the biggest benefit of it, and wasn't very demanding of my time. And we've had a fantastic result, so I'm really happy with the project, yeah.
The farmers took it seriously. They realised that A, they have some more productivity on their farm, it increases their value, their capital value, and I think it's in total benefit to the whole soil type and the condition of that part of the country that they're trying to rehabilitate.
I think it's been able to help farmers to see the huge capabilities of the different varieties of saltbush, and through the partnership with Ian Pulbrook and Greenoil Tree Nurseries, we've been able to bring a nursery, a group of farmers together, and really make a difference to the area.